Good afternoon, folks. This is the Ungovernables 2021 live stream for Sunday. What the fuck was yesterday's date? For Sunday, hold on. I'm ill-prepared once again.
The 24th.
Yeah, yesterday was the 24th, but this is actually the 25th, but we're calling this the 24th because this is when we were supposed to do this. But due to the ever fun technological challenges of general life, we are forced to do this on Monday. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dave. We continue on with our discussion of media, good and bad. Today we're talking good.
So we will be talking about in a few minutes this gentleman on the screen. If you see him, his name is Judd Legum, and I ask you to just listen and kind of put your preconceptions aside about certain things, and I'll explain that in a minute. But first, I want to do a little house cleaning and do a little recap of some things that have been happening. Last week, we were talking about the coverage of the Burisma story and Glenn Greenwald and those kinds of things. So this story from AP by Tom Hayes and Larry Neumeister from October 22nd recaps some of the things that are going on. Giuliani associate convicted of campaign finance crimes. So we have this gentleman, Lev Parnas. So here is Lev Parnas. I don't know if he's posing or if he's opening the car door. I don't know. But a Florida businessman who helped Rudy Giuliani's effort to dig up dirt on Joe Biden and Ukraine was convicted of Friday of campaign finance crimes, including funneling a Russian entrepreneur's money to U.S. politicians.
Don't say. Funny that, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
One part of the case alleged that Parnas and his associate made illegal donations to a corporate entity in 2008 as they tried to jumpstart a new energy company. So we have influencing Russian politicians and a new energy company.
Oh, wasn't there right here.
Yep.
Right here down this part. Another part said he used the wealth of a Russian financier, Andrei Muriev, to donate to Republicans in Nevada, Florida, and other states, ostensibly in support of an effort to launch a legal recreational marijuana business.
Yep.
How's that? There you go.
So basically, Mr. Parnas, Mr. Giuliani, they are trapped in their own web of accusations. So just wanted to put that out there. Now, the reason, also one of the reasons that I want to bring that up is because our guest, our person of focus today, does a lot of financial reporting, and especially financial reporting of Republican and far right wing businessmen and politicians. So we have Mr. Judd Legum, and I'm going to just read his description of himself. Popular information is written by me, Judd Legum. I spent a decade following politics obsessively as a founder and editor of Think Progress, which was part of Center for American Progress. According to Wikipedia, I've drawn notice for reporting and commentary on a range of political topics. I also have experience working on a presidential campaign. In 2008, I was Hillary Clinton's research director. Stay. Which means I was in charge of researching her and her opponents. I was part of a small team that helped Clinton prepare for all 25 Democratic primary debates. I also got an inside look at all the components of a major political campaign, including the press operation, polling, field, and ads. And in 2010, I ran for state delegate in Maryland. I knocked on 10,000 doors, put up yard signs, showed up at homeowners association meetings, and set up our direct mail. I won the Democratic nomination, but lost in the general election. So this gentleman was steeped in the Center for American Progress, and also helped be a cog in Hillary Clinton's campaign. So yes, his popular.info newsletter is biased towards the Democratic side. My thing is, so
let me just say this.
Yep.
I am biased towards the Democratic side right now. And honestly, for me, it's a question of just people need to have all the same rights, and the right can't get away with what it's getting away with. And that's really where I'm coming from. So yes, I am out of the mode of don't vote, and I'm in the mode of please vote. And I realize now how foolish I was to think that the right wasn't going to vote. Only the left doesn't vote. That's the way that works.
My feeling on it is, who better to be able to navigate us through this system than someone who has been in it?
Well, let's look at it from a logical perspective. It doesn't matter whether you've actually worked in the campaigns. Almost everybody who works on political news has been exposed to this at some time or another in their careers, whether they've observed it or whether they've actually functioned in it, because there's really no other way to write about this without having some kind of an understanding of the political system. There's just no way.
Well, he is also organized and created out of thin air 2 publications over the past 10 or so years. So we have Think Progress, which, yeah, it was kind of an offshoot of the Center for American Progress, but he basically built it. He ran it. And then when that went under, then he was able to do this. And the bottom line, too, is that you always need money and you always need staff. So,
by the way, I used to read Think Progress quite frequently back in the day.
This is Think Progress right before they went under, by the way. This is just a snapshot. And this was after Judd Legum left. So, but this is a story on Judd Legum and Think Progress raising money after Trump won. But I have to say that this is some of the stuff that he looked into while this blog was going on. It was more of a blog and less of a newsletter. Think Progress was founded in 2005 as an offshoot of the Center of American Progress, a progressive think tank. What started as a bloggy website has grown into a fully staffed news organization that employs beat writers and conducts investigative reporting. The one thing that they mention is the site has generated real impact most recently when it published a list of companies that has established corporate partnerships with the NRA. And I remember that.
By the way, just so people understand, the progressives aren't the only ones using think tanks. There are tons of right-wing think tanks that are used every day So they're used throughout the entire political system. And, I have a whole new uptake on that whole situation. Certainly, the American people aren't capable of thinking very often critically, and someone's got to, continue to advance the cause. I now no longer look at, George Soros the same way I did when I fell into that, black pit of let me believe everything that the right wing is saying.
Right.
While, George Soros might be funding women's rights in, other countries, we have right-wing organizations in this country going after women's rights right here. So, again, everything is relative now for me.
Right. Yep. Now, I mean, you have Center for the American for American Progress, and then you have on the right you have the Heritage Foundation.
Yep.
So it is part of it. And by the way, we were hammering this whole thing and saying, hey, maybe we can take it. And then after a while realizing that we can't, and this is what we have right now. Now we got to work within the system again. This is what it is.
It is because clearly working outside the system was not working because only one group of people were working outside the system.
So there were a bunch of stories basically talking about popular information or popular.info. This is yet another one from Bloomberg. Basically, the running message is that these guys are attacking the money for the most part.
Right.
Okay. So this was when Think Progress was shuttered. The Center for American Progress, the think tank behind the editorial venture, said the lack of a buyer led to the shutdown. These things cost money, and they shut it down in 2019. But Judd Legum, found a way to create a newsletter. Okay. Come. One of the few things people agree on in 2018 is that the news industry is broken. Old business models don't work. Meanwhile, audiences feel overwhelmed and underserved. According to a recent Pew Research Center survey, 7 in 10 Americans say they are exhausted by the news, which is,
Gee whiz. Really
yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm exhausted by their exhaustion of the news.
Judd Legum basically says, editor-in-chief, founder of left-leaning political news website Think Progress, says the two biggest problems are ads and social media. Digital ads aren't sustainable as a business model for online publications, and they create incentives for clickbait and other poor quality journalism. Social media is a firehouse of information and leave readers and outlets alike at the whim of algorithms, which I know Deb has been a victim of, especially worrisome.
I'm going to tell you another thing everybody's been a victim of is bullshit artists on social media.
That too.
Plenty of them.
So basically, this is basically, for lack of a better term, kind of a advertisement piece and why he's doing, why he created popular.info, which, by the way, I would recommend that you at least go on and look at it. And
I'll get it delivered to your mailbox like I do.
Get it delivered to your mailbox. I'm not going to sell it. You can actually get if for free, you get, I think they do 5 a week, and you get 1 out of the 5, actually the Monday edition, and you're able to read the stuff online. I think also it's $50 for a year. So it's not that expensive. It really isn't. But this was July 12th of 2018. So he was on his way to doing this before I think progress ultimately ended. How Judd Legum accomplished what millions wouldn't. Again, talking about the newsletter, talking about popular.info, one of the things that they talked about was the insurrection and some of the research that Mr. Legum did. In the weeks following the insurrection, Legum's reporting on corporate donations flooded the Twitter sphere in a froth of ecstatic retweets. Finally, people with money and power were standing up and doing the right thing. Have you no decency moment seemed to at last have arrived for Trump's enablers. But nobody seemed aware of how the wave of corporate repudiations started, nor did the retweeters question of how a newsletter with a staff of 2 had scooped the biggest media outlets on one of the biggest stories to follow the insurrection. Basically, what he was doing, he got a list of all the companies, him and his coworker in this startup company called everybody for an answer and tracked them. And had this big chart. That's what you do. That's called investigative journalism, by the way. So this story is by Austin Ratner of Forward magazine or Forward publication. It's a Jewish publication. He also mentions that Judd Legum is Jewish. The one thing I tried to look into is Judd Legum's attitude or opinion of AIPAC. I couldn't find anything one way or the other. Given the fact that he follows money, not surprised that he didn't say anything. But I didn't see him supporting or criticizing Neera Tanden for her behavior in the past or any of that kind of thing. Just so you know, I looked. This what I was just talking about, the January 6th Corporate Accountability Index. And we will be talking about some of these companies in the future, I am sure, including but not limited to AT&T, who is one of the biggest offenders. They're involving themselves in the abortion debate. They involved themselves in the January 6th situation. So, corporations have pledged to end support to the 147 Republican objectors and have kept their promises. So these are corporations that will not donate to those candidates. Those are Airbnb, Allstate, Amazon, American Express, BASF, CBS Corporation, Cisco, Commerce Bank Shares, Dell, Dow Incorporated, Eversource Energy, General Mills, etc. I'm not going to read the whole thing. So corporations have pledged to suspend all PAC donations and have not donated directly or indirectly. Again, so a lot, I mean, you know, corporations that pled to suspend donations to the 147 Republican objectors, but directly donated to those Republicans. So here it's a smaller list, so I'm going to read them. Cigna,
Yeah, they're full of shit.
Donated 30,000 to 15 Republican objectors, 15,000 to the NRSC on February 4th, and 15,000 to the NRCC on February 26th. When you're saying, well, I won't get stuff from Amazon, I'll just do it on eBay. Well, there you go. What eBay said after January 6th, eBay's PAC has made the decision to suspend contribution to members of Congress that voted against the peaceful transfer of power. And they had a longer statement, but eBay donated $2,500 to one Republican objector. Maybe they made a mistake, probably not. Eli Lilly donated 12,000 to 6 Republican objectors, 15,000 to the NRCC on July 5th, and 15,000 to the NRSC on August 9th. And PricewaterhouseCoopers. So, corporations that pledged to suspend the donations but violated the spirit of the pledge. AT&T, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Comcast, and NBC Universal. And everybody thinks that NBC is, Democratic. Cozen O'Connor, I don't know what that is. Green Tech,
Genentech.
General Electric, Google, Home Depot, Intel, KPMG, Next Era, Oracle, Sanofi. Well, yeah, if you want to get away from AT&T and you want to go to Verizon, and Walmart. So there's more of this. I mean, it's just these companies said they're not going to donate to these objectors, and they did. So there's a ton of them. And this was updated on October 25th. So this is a running list. Sometimes you see that. This is just a rundown of how Judd Legum was able to use his newsletter effectively on Substack. Basically, if you look at Substack and you look at his newsletter, they pretty much mirror in the order of their listing of stories and all of that. Pretty much, it's just another way to get you introduced to the stories. And I know Deb and I both said that Substack is a blog, but
Yeah.
you're news stories, you're putting stories that you have researched on Substack. It's not that, you're not using it as a way, it's just a delivery system.
Right.
It's a way to put it.
It's when you use that delivery system and you don't back up anything you're saying that there's a problem.
Right.
And that's a problem on every site.
Right. Now, here is a criticism of Mr. Legum. Hacked emails shows how liberal groups back-channeled advice to Clinton. I have looked at WikiLeaks. I have looked at what Judd Legum said. I have looked for direct violations to journalistic rules, that kind of thing. I didn't see any. The point being that he was Hillary Clinton's primary research director in 2008. He was working on this site think progress until 2018. In 2016, he used his private email address to email Podesta directly about things that he would suggest that the campaign do. This is about when Bernie Sanders met with Killer Mike, stuff like that, or when Bernie would make a statement, or that kind of thing. Maybe I would say that, or maybe I would look into this. This kind of looks goofy. That's what people do.
That's part of the whole strategy of running a race.
You may not like it, and here are please feel free. Here are the emails. You just take a look. I even have it right there with the Judd Legum search. I did not see anything where he was giving private information, anything but public information and his own private opinion from his home email, not from his business email. I didn't see anything. But because it was Hillary Clinton and because she was running against Bernie, kind of made a big deal out of it. Am I a huge Hillary person? Maybe if she's running against Trump, yeah. But am I going to go bowling with her? No. Do I like her? No. Do I think she's better than the right wingers? Yes, I do. This is a story from Reuters that broke this whole thing about AT&T. Now, a lot of people use this and fed it into their own stories. Personally, I think Judd did a pretty good job as opposed to everybody else. This is his story on it, and he did cite the Reuters story. This particular individual is Chanel Rion, the White House correspondent for One America News Network. And you notice she doesn't have her mask on, of course.
She's got a fur coat on.
But she's got her fur coat on. She'll probably cover it.
He kind of wants to stop worrying about animal testing and diagnostics and go after these people instead. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah, never mind.
One American News Network, a right-wing propaganda network that promotes unhinged conspiracy theories about the 2020 election, COVID, and other topics, relies almost exclusively on funding from AT&T. Court records first obtained by Reuters reveal that AT&T is responsible for 90% of OAN's revenue. Now, AT&T, of course, responded saying that this data is primarily from DirecTV. They no longer are directly linked to DirecTV, blah, blah, blah. So it goes further talking about Mike Lindell in his movie Absolute Proof, aired 13 times from February 5th to 8th, blah, blah, blah. While Absolute Proof was technically a paid advertisement, OAN promoted it as a news program. Of course they did. OAN billed it as an exclusive report about growing evidence of election fraud, revealing that the presidency of the United States has been stolen from the American people.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jesus. There we go. In February, Popular Information estimated that AT&T was providing at least $3 million in revenue to OAN annually. The court document uncovered by Reuters revealed that AT&T's contract with OAN was worth far more. In court filings, Herring, if everybody remembers Robert Herring, says that AT&T paid OAN about $57 million over 5 years. AT&T disputes that number, but refused to say how much it does pay OAN, citing an NDA. So, in February, Popular Information asked AT&T if it would continue to carry OAN on its platforms, getting this response. When it comes to the channels we carry for our customers, we do not exercise control over their editorial content. We review our contract terms continually, and in the meantime, if customers have questions about a provider's content, they should contact the individual channel provider.
Did you see this? The lawyer for OAN at the top there said that if they were to be taken off of the platform, they would go out of business.
Right. I think they'd be okay. AT&T donated more than $300,000 to the sponsors of the Texas extreme abortion ban.
Yes. But wait, nobody has to go to AT&T or Verizon. You understand that, right? Boost Mobile. Plenty of outlets.
Yeah, before I jump to another telecom company, I want to know that they're not involved in any slime either.
Just look it up. That's why I went there.
So I am just saying.
There are plenty of other places to look at.
And Mr. Legum and Popular Information did get some of this, did do their research and get some further information. This is just talking about different legislation. So, Popular Information recently reported on the top corporate donors to the sponsors of the Texas extreme abortion ban, but how much of these corporations contribute to Heritage Action, a 501c4 nonprofit organization that supports politicians pushing the bans. Corporations can keep that secret. So this is Popular Information, the newsletter itself. You can just go down. There were a couple times they talked about critical race theory. That's the news story. Let's see. Some of the stories that I saw. Virginia school boards being weaponized to elect a GOP governor. Citizens Guide to Trump's 2024 strategy. Obviously, I'm interested in this. They didn't really tell me anything that I didn't already know, but there are some developments in Louis DeJoy. Now that there is a chance that the Board of Governors will switch from Republican, highly conservative Republican to Democrat within the next year, they're really looking at what Louis DeJoy did, and I believe it was 12 conflicts of interest they've found so far. So don't be surprised if Judd and other people get involved. I just want to show some of his tweets. He is on social media a lot. This was a tweet back from 2019. I wanted to see if I could find him criticizing the Democratic Party at all. And I found it interesting. Okay, I admit it. I think it's fine that Democrats are fighting with each other. Let me explain. There's a big debate about the future of the Democratic Party. Does the party need to represent a return to normalcy after Trump, or should it advocate for bold positions about the nation's biggest problems, like healthcare, climate, wage stagnation, blah, blah, blah? That's kind of the, incrementalization argument. The idea that everyone should pretend there's no such agreement within the party and no Democrat should criticize another Democrat seems pointless. It's better, in my view, to hash it out. This is the one that really interested me. One of the issues is that the most powerful forces in the Democratic Party are protecting Trump from impeachment and also sent billions of dollars to Trump's CBP, etc., with no strings attached. The CBP is involved with immigration. Basically, what he's saying is that the Democrats are steeped in the system too, and they will protect Trump or other people, to save their own ass. That was the crux of that I got. Now, are they as bad as the Republicans? No, not at all. They're not trying to repress people or whatever, but it's kind of the Pontius Pilate syndrome of the whole thing. They just go, oh, that wasn't me, because they don't want a spotlight on them, and they let things go when they shouldn't, because of the system, because of money, because money is a necessary evil, quote unquote. So that's just his Twitter. Okay, this is a big scandal, or should be. One thing that I like about Judd Legum is that he will point out other stories. Republican fundraising machine Red Wind PAC has an operating budget of zero, hiding possibly tens of millions of dollars in payments and keeping the identities of who pays it a secret. Now, this is from the Daily Beast. So that was wrong. Roger Sullenberger. Okay, so he basically promoted his own story, but it was retweeted by Judd. So this is WinRed PAC, the for-profit Republican fundraising juggernaut, raised more than $2.4 billion for GOP campaigns and committees in the 2020 election. But somehow that gargantuan undertakings appears to have cost the PAC almost nothing. So they're just hiding money. And I'll leave this story, obviously. So this, again, this is Substack. Pretty much, as I said, it's kind of the same thing. I just wanted to show you, if you look at it, it's almost, even the logos kind of look the same, which is probably by design. The format is the same. Actually pretty clever. And that's...
He has an identity. That's what he keeps.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Just so you know, I will be looking at other news organizations and reporters that focus on economic fraud. What I will say is I would personally pay attention, especially if you're interested in right-wing political graft, take a look at Judd, and take a look at popular.info, because it has a lot. I just scratched the surface. I really did. And if you're saying, well, Dave, what about the Democrats? You're going to do the what about? I will be covering sludge in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, because they are fantastic, and they hit hard. They hit the Democrats hard. And you know what? Everybody should get hit. And when it comes to AT&T, there were Democratic donors to AT&T, or investors rather. Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, has a large investment in AT&T, and they look into it, as well they should. Personally, I think that everyone should be divested in the government. They shouldn't be invested while they're working for the people, because they're working for their own interests and working for the interests of the businesses that they're invested in. There's a story about the Federal Reserve and how they're looking to curb investments for the heads of Federal Reserve, because 2 bankers were caught in some real sketchy stuff. That reporter, her name is Gina Smielek. She's actually really good. Check her out. She's at the New York Times. If you can, read her stories. I did look at some of her video. She tends to talk in technical speak, and she's easier to understand this way. So, and also someone that I found out about, and I may be doing a story, maybe doing coverage of her. Bethany McLean. She uncovered the Enron story simply based on the numbers and looking at the numbers and saying, wait, whoa, hold on, this isn't right. And then finding out that it wasn't right. And so, some of these reporters are going to come from places that may turn your nose up a little bit. She was Bethany McLean originally came from Goldman Sachs. You have Judd Legum. He worked closely with the Hillary Clinton campaign. They know the system. My suggestion to you is, if you wanted a complete view of the political system and corporate rot, I would look at Judd Legum and a couple of other reporters and read Sludge to get a full nasty view.
And then the question is going to be, what do you intend to do about it? Because at the end of the day, and I'll say this until my eyes bleed, you can post and bitch and whine all you want, but unless you are participating in some way to make that change, you're wasting your fucking time, because none of these people care that you're on social media whining. They really don't. You're nice and contained on social media. Again, I'm going to say it. I'm not talking about doing what was done on January 6th, because that was not trying to fix the system either. That was trying to reinstall a fucking dictator. Okay. Again, let me say that. But the closest we've come to actually doing what we need to do was called Occupy. Unfortunately, we went home thinking that it was going to be fixed in a year. This system took 200 years to turn into rot. Okay. Right. And it's going to take a long time to fix it. But if the American people aren't willing to participate in pushing the issue, then you know what? Nothing's going to change. And this is what brought me back full circle to where I am today. I personally would rather deal with the idiots that are contained in the system than to turn my future over to the American people. I've seen enough. I'm not interested in that anymore.
One of the things that I like about Judd Legum and popular.info is that he names companies and he gives you numbers and he shows you exactly what they did
and you
and
don't
exactly
have to buy from those companies.
And that should drive people to do something. And boycotting is the easiest thing. It's don't do something. It's an inaction. You can find another way. It's going to take a minute maybe to change your subscription or whatever. But once you do that, you're done. What's easier than that?
If you're not willing to do that, then you're not willing to do the bigger stuff that needs to get done. Okay, then it's as simple as that. Like I said, hashtag, jail Fauci, hashtag, blah, 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 blah. That's all just bullshit. That's just like fucking advertising slogans, basically. You're just hashtagging yourself into fucking oblivion and no one's paying attention to you. All right? No matter how big you think you are because you got 500 people to reuse your hashtag, it is not affecting any change. None. Zero. Other than maybe your hits, if that's what you're into. But that's not change either. So just saying. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, I had one more thing. For those of you who are well read or well whatever, I am fully aware of Project Veritas and James O'Keefe exposing Judd Legum and his retraction. First off, Judd Legum didn't retract anything. He actually corrected a tweet.
And by the way, tweets aren't news.
Tweets aren't news.
Tweets aren't news.
Oh, Dave, you're promoting a guy who had to retract his own. No, he didn't retract anything.
Oh, please. Don't talk to me about James O'Keefe. That guy wouldn't know a legitimate news story if he fucking invented it. And he does. He invents them often.
So here's what I'm looking to do in the next few weeks. Next Sunday will be Halloween. For Halloween, we're going to pick someone very, very scary. And I just gave you a hint as to what we're going to do. We are going to run a story on Project Veritas and James O'Keefe. Deb has been asking me to do that for a very long time, and this just fell in my lap. And I'm like, okay, we can do this. Retracto the alpaca. This is what you got? Okay.
No comment. No comment.
Then after that, I'm looking at a couple of different things. And possibly depending on what hits during Christmas, and I urge all of you to either go to a store and visit your family and hand them your gifts yourself, or ship your stuff like right now, because I don't know what's going to happen. I personally work at the United States Postal Service, and although many people are content at the way things are going, I see potential writing on the wall unless Mr. DeJoy is dethroned. And he has a vehicle contract in the works. They are, let's just say, the Board of Governors and Congress is reviewing that contract, and the fact that there was a huge stock buy one day, actually hours prior to the announcement, the formal announcement. So they're
let me also just remind people that it's not as simple as Joe Biden needs to remove him from office. That's not the way it works.
It doesn't work that way. The board of
System
governors
doesn't work that way. Got me? The system doesn't work that way.
Right. Actually, Biden just put in 3. There's a 5-3 minority right this second, or 5-3. It might be something else, but we'll have there'll be a majority of people who will be seriously looking very, very soon, because 2 of those appointments are up soon. So we'll see.
The governor has to remove him, not the president of the United States.
Correct. And and by the way, you have to remove someone, and I don't know the last time that happened. It was like probably in the 1800s, if it ever did happen. If they do remove somebody, it has to be for cause, and they're looking for cause right now. All the conflicts of interest and all of that stuff going on. So I'll be looking at that. I looked.
Someone ought to look at the joy effort to slow down the mail in the context of disenfranchising voters, because the U.S. Postal Service was just sued by one state. I can't remember which state it was. I have the article.
Was it New York?
I don't know, for potentially disenfranchising voters. It's not just about privatization of the Postal Service. It's about the whole Republican effort to disenfranchise voters. It's the whole ball of wax. Make sure ballots can't be delivered. I'm going to tell you right now, it's the game. It's the big lie game.
Yep. Now, okay, so it's the election, the state elections are when this year?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll get you the article, though. I'll get you the article on this. I just saw it. They were just sued. I might have sent it to you in Telegram, although I'm not sure that I did.
There are a couple things that always come up around this time. Number 1 are the elections, and number 2 is Christmas, because you have the companies who have these major contracts with the Postal Service to get their product out on time before the holiday. So we shall see, but I may be doing something on that once.
Virginia, this was in the Hill.
Okay.
Virginia Democrats sue United States Postal Service for delays that threaten to, quote, disenfranchise voters.
That makes perfect sense. That makes absolute.
They filed a lawsuit on Friday, this past Friday.
Where do you know where it was? Like Loudoun County or somewhere in Northern Virginia?
I'll look right now. This was in the Hill, by the way. I sent it to you, so it's in your.
Okay.
I probably did it last night. It's the whole Virginia Democratic Party.
Shit. Okay.
Now, the significant delay in election mail. The lawsuit argues that while problems are being observed throughout the Commonwealth, the significant delay in election mail in Albemarle, Portsmouth, and James City counties is particularly egregious.
Yeah, that's well, I'm pretty sure Albemarle is Northern Virginia. We're talking Northern Virginia. That makes sense. It really does. It's by DC.
Yeah, well, they're saying that, they haven't even been scanned yet. And even if people get it in time to vote, they probably will not be able to get it in time to be counted. That's what they are alleging.
Ooh.
So that's what that's all about, just so you want to.
Okay. Yeah. And if you remember last year, not to derail this too much, last year there were allegations that we, the Democratic postal workers, were holding truckfuls of ballots.
Yeah, stuff it up here, whatever.
How do you know?
A big lie.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to know. If you're on the right side, if you're right wing, you don't have to provide any proof of anything. You
But
know
the
this
thing
shit.
is,
You just know this
why
shit.
the
It comes to
hell-
you in a fucking dream.
Yeah. Why the hell would postal workers in New York do that? Because guess what? New York is a Democratic state. Most of those ballots are probably Democratic. So why the hell would we do that? It's fucking ridiculous. But that's my highlight on Judd Legum. I just wanted you guys to get a general idea of who he is and what he does. I'll do a little bit more next week with Mr. Alpaca himself.
And by the way, let me just say this. If you have a problem looking at these people because they toil within the system, considering the fact that you are unwilling to do anything to get yourselves out of this system, I suggest you might want to shut the fuck up, okay?
Most of the people who know the system are the ones who have worked in it.
Right.
And they know the positives and the negatives. And one thing I have to say about Judd is that he's willing to call people out. He doesn't do it that much on the Democratic side, no, but he will do it. So I don't know what else to say. You have to look at valid, viable sources when you see it.
Yep. Okay, I'm killing this recording, and we'll see you all next Sunday for the Nightmare on whatever it is. Nightmare on New Street next Sunday.
Now, Nightmare on Retracto Street.
Right. I'm killing the recording. We'll
Yep.
get this up as soon as we can, maybe tonight.